What if everything you knew about disciplining kids was wrong? Well, there are a lot of parenting practices that are not good for families or family relationships. I'm Nicholeen Peck. I'm a parenting expert and an author, and I'm going to talk today about good parenting and bad parenting and what things we want to avoid and why. There are so many parenting practices that really are not effective at changing behaviors. And I just wish that parents knew that. I wish they could see what was really happening psychologically inside their child's mind, and even what was happening to themselves as they were using these parenting practices. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to list some of the common things that people do and where they go wrong and what they should do instead. Instilling fear is not good. So many parents think they have to have their children be afraid of them in order to behave. This is not good for their bond with you. And in the long term, it's going to yield really bad results. In fact, they're going to probably try to dominate other people in their lives and have many failed relationships. So what should you do instead? Be the power of calmness in their lives. Be a leader. Not just an authoritarian figure. Be a person who shows them the example of how to have a functional, caring relationship where you communicate with each other with self-mastery. That's much better. Another thing that parents do so often, which they probably don't even realize they're doing, is they detach from their children emotionally and psychologically. So when they see the child does something that they don't like, they immediately pull back from their bond with the child and start behaving as if the child was an object or something to be controlled, instead of helping the child learn. When we correct our children, we should be drawing closer to them, not pulling further away. So if you think of what people do for discipline techniques like timeout and things like that, those are all detaching movements. They're not good for family bonding. They're not good for learning, because we learn through relationship and bonding and connection. So detaching emotionally is not good. But I think one of the reasons people detach is because they're afraid of losing complete control. And that's their second go-to, is to just pull back and be bugged by the child instead, but not say very much. This is not good. It leaves the child wondering. You should be assertive. You should have good open communication. Learn the skills that you need in order to address the problems that the child might be having. Next, parents often isolate children. They put them in rooms behind closed doors. They put them on timeout benches. They make them sit in cars. Things that might be scary for them, or things that make them feel like they have been outcasted because of their behaviors. Children don't have to feel like they are an outcast because they have bad behaviors. Heavens, they're children. Of course they're going to have bad behaviors. Every child learns and grows during their childhood. That's what childhood's all about. So we need to not take it personally and make our child be isolated or removed from the group. Instead, we just need to have the words to say of a good correction and help them accept a negative consequence that they can do in a productive way, instead of having the negative consequence be acting like they're not part of the group anymore. In our family, our most common negative consequences is an extra chore. And that's because it's something they can do. It's not something I'm doing to them. Another mistake that many parents make is they ignore the children. They ignore the bad behavior, or if something bothers them, they even give the child a silent treatment. So ignoring is a really big problem. If a child does something that needs to be corrected, then you are the one to do it. So you've got to make sure that you decide it's okay to handle this, even if I'm tired, even if I've already handled it 3 other times today, it's okay to handle it again. Remember, their brains are growing and they have just such small prefrontal cortexes when they're young. And so lots of times we have to repeat, and it's okay to repeat. Tell yourself it's okay. Tell yourself it's okay to do that teaching so that you don't ignore. The next mistake that parents often make is punishing. Now, I know that sounds like, wait a minute, there has to be negative consequences. Yes, there need to be negative consequences, but we shouldn't think in terms of punishments. I don't like the word punishments because punish gives this feeling of vindictiveness. Like, you made life hard for me, I'm going to make life hard for you. Negative consequences aren't about making somebody feel emotionally beat up or like someone has dominated them. No, a negative consequence is something that can be decided ahead of time. In our family, we use extra chores for most things, so our children know that if they do something that needs to be corrected, then they will earn an extra chore. And I will pick out of a job jar a chore that they need to do if I can't think of something right off the bat that they need to do for their negative consequences. They know how to accept a negative consequence. There's a 6-step process for that we teach them in one of the skills. And so they don't feel like they have been mistreated. It's all been taught to them ahead of time. And then when it happens that they earn a negative consequence, they say, okay, and they go do it. So some parents were raised in homes where they were hit. Maybe they were spanked, slapped, and they feel like they turned out okay. So they think that maybe hitting, spanking, slapping is okay. But I want you to know it's not necessary. And it can even be damaging. There's no reason to hit or slap a child. What they need is teaching. They need bonding. They need focus for where they're going. And a hit just shows them that you're mad. And why is their negative behavior about you? When I took in foster children, I couldn't hit any of them. And I have to admit that my oldest son, who was 3 at the time, had been spanked a couple of times. But I know I felt guilt afterward. I know that I knew that wasn't the right thing to do. But when I started taking in other people's children, I had to have a whole new way of communicating. I could no longer hit. Otherwise, I'd find myself in court. So if I don't have to hit a foster child, why do I have to hit my own child? I don't. In fact, it's not a principle to hit. That is just a practice. The principle is to correct and to teach, and that can be done with calm, loving, but firm words and structure. So don't feel like you have to hit. As you can see, this topic is big, and I have so many more gems for you. So go ahead and watch part 2 now of what if everything you knew about parenting was wrong? And there will be so many more things there that you can take away, and maybe even some fixes that you can make to improve your parenting.